he put the brunette out of his mind and set off on his way, content with his night's work. Little did Felix know that their paths would one day cross again, and when they did, he would not walk away with a shrug, but with a kiss. "Something you must always remember, my dear," Mrs. Atwood murmured as she stood beside her daughter in the crowded ballroom, "is that a woman is not defined by who she is, but rather who she marries." Felicity absorbed her mother's advice with a stiff nod, while she watched a couple swirl past, the soles of their shoes clicking in perfect unison on the tiled marble. The woman danced with an effortless grace, the lace hem of her rose-coloured gown barely sweeping the floor. The man's perfect movements were more precise and rigid, but no less impressive, as the valse required perfection in every step. Without it, pandemonium was certain to ensue, which was one of the reasons Felicity had not yet ventured onto the dance floor. There was a very big difference between practicing the waltz at home in the sturdy arms of her tutor and performing it in front of 200 of her peers, where she was not prone to stumbling or losing her rhythm. She was, in fact, quite graceful. She still found the idea of being twirled about by a complete stranger rather daunting. What if she tripped and fell flat on her face? Worse yet, what if she caused her partner to trip? She would be humiliated, and her first season would end before it ever really had a chance to begin. If only Scarlett were here. Her dearest friend would know what to do. Scarlett always knew what to do. But having just recently become a bride, she was away on her honeymoon, and not due to return for at least another month, leaving Felicity completely on her own. Worrying her bottom lip between her teeth as a dog might a bone, she lifted her dance card and glanced down at the signatures she'd gathered upon her arrival. The first 3 lines were blank. Traffic had been very cumbersome. But the 4th belonged to one Lord Ezra Whitton, Viscount of Ashburn. She vaguely recalled him as a tall, thin man with dark hair and dark eyes. Of all the names on her card, his was the most promising. Not only because he was a viscount, but because he was the closest to her in age. With only a small dowry and no one in her family of significant note or importance, Felicity knew she could not afford to be picky. But she did prefer her husband not to be confused for her father, or, worse yet, her grandfather. She shuddered ever so slightly at the thought, and earned herself both a glance of mild reproof and a warning squeeze on the forearm. "Young ladies do not fidget," Mrs. Atwood said with quiet firmness. "Chin up, my dear, and do try not to look as though you are a small animal standing before the jaws of a lion. While men enjoy shyness to some degree, they do not want a wife who swoons at the drop of a hat." "I am not going to swoon," Felicity protested. At least she did not think she was going to swoon. Having never done so before, she had no idea what the symptoms were. Was a pounding heart one of them? Pressing a gloved hand over her chest, she felt an alarmingly fast bump, bump, bump beneath her fingertips, like an urgent fist knocking against a door. Oh dear. Her cheeks paled as she imagined slowly collapsing amidst a swirl of muslin and lace with everyone looking on. Now that would be humiliating, and not something easily lived down. Scarlett would certainly never let her forget it, and neither would the ton. She would become the girl who fainted, and the moniker would follow her around until the ends of her days, preceding every room she entered and every word she spoke. "Of course you are not going to swoon." Mrs. Atwood spoke very matter-of-factly, as if stating something out loud made it true. "That would be terribly unseemly. Unless," she said, thoughtfully tapping her finger against the end of her chin, "you were to swoon at the feet of a duke, in which case it may go in our favour, as he would be required to attend you." Her eyes brightened. "Do you see any dukes about?" "Mother." Felicity regarded the petite brunette standing beside her with equal parts affection and exasperation. Were it not for the threads of grey in Mrs. Atwood's hair, or the lines that creased the corners of her eyes when she smiled, they might have been sisters. Both of them shared the same willowy stature.